Paul Kersey's now back in New York City after 10 long years since his first time becoming a vigilante. Now in this movie, you can tell Charles Bronson has aged quite a lot by this time in 1985. Obviously, with time and other responsibilities, Charles Bronson's look in the early 70s is probably his best time where he looked more rugged and tough.
And Karen and God bastard knows about it.
And now he just sounds older. But I guess the same thing's applicable with Clint Eastwood and Sudden Impact from 1983 and The Deadpool from 1988. Even Sean Connery in Diamonds Are Forever from 1971 or Never Say Never Again from 1983. Now keep in mind, Death Wish 3 is the pinnacle of all Death Wish movies because this is the final movie directed by Michael Winner after working 5 previous movies with Bronson, such as the original Death Wish from 1974, Death Wish 2 from 1982, The Mechanic 1972, Chateau's Land from 1972, and The Stone Killer from 1973. So the movie opens up with Paul riding the bus back to New York, but in reality, he's actually going to visit his friend Charlie, who's currently being harassed by the local creeps. Before I move on, this location of New York City, quote-unquote, is actually a film set, as Death Wish 3 was shot in Lambeth, London, so don't get confused here. Paul calls up Charlie to see if he's there while a creep answers it and throws it to the side. So Paul takes a cab to Charlie's building after he bribes a taxi driver.
$20, you get us out of here. Thanks, Mac.
Now that he's here, Paul looks around going all vigilante mode again and sees that Charlie's dying and says his last few words.
Take care of my things, will you, till I get back?
Paul gets accused for killing Charlie, so they take him down to the local station. We are now in the interrogation office, and here we meet Inspector Stryker, played by Ed Lauter, one actor who has been in other Charles Bronson movies such as Breakheart Pass from 1975 and Death Hunt from 1981. Anyway, Stryker knows everything about Paul.
Kersey, Paul Kersey brought a vigilante in.
So Paul feels violated about his rights, and the two get into a fight.
I'm the law.
See what happens, Stryker, when you get into a fight with a vigilante. Stryker now has his meltdown.
And watch him, make sure he doesn't get comfortable.
Now Paul is sent to the cell where he is surrounded by other inmates. Paul now wants to use the toilet and see that Porky Pig over here has...
Tore it out.
And now we get the greatest stare down between Manny Fraker and Paul Kersey. Fraker's played by Gavin O'Hurley, who is pretty much known for being in the James Bond remake of Thunderball, which is Never Say Never Again, which I mentioned earlier. So the next morning, Paul is sitting in the corner, and Fraker over here wants the other cellmates to make a move on him. Paul fights back, and now everyone is beating up on him, especially Fraker.
Yeah, I always win.
Cops come in to break up the fight. We now hear that Fraker is getting released earlier.
Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna kill a little old lady, catch it on the 6 o'clock.
So just hearing that dialogue alone, you can tell Fraker already knew that Paul Kersey was the same vigilante from 1974. No wonder he doesn't like him. So now Stryker holds a meeting, knowing that the crime rate in the Bronx area has gone up higher.
Then I care to mention.
Reported crime is up 11%.
Stryker's only solution is Paul. Alright, so Stryker and Paul have a conversation, and Stryker is obviously in love with Paul's past killings and wants to make a deal with him, so as long as he deals with the creeps under his jurisdiction.
You're letting me loose? I'm letting you loose.
Paul gets his stuff back, and the lawyer's back to have him sign some release forms about pressing charges, but refuses to do so, and he walks out into the night. So Paul spots some creeps since they all have the black and red paint on their faces. Meanwhile, another creep is riding on top of the car, driven by a woman. And now we meet Ben Cross, played by Martin Balsam, well-known supporting actor. If you've seen movies like 12 Angry Men or Psycho, the Hitchcock movie. And he's also been in another Charles Bronson movie, Stone Killer, which I mentioned earlier. Paul wants to know who killed him, but he keeps on having ADHD attacks.
Who killed Charlie? Who killed Charlie? Sure you.
I've got ADHD, supposedly.
Come on, Paul. So Ben points out the window that the creeps, the ones causing all this havoc, and says that Fraker is the leader of the gang.
Run away.
So they end the night off with Paul mentioning
Take care of my things until I get back.
and uses Charles' apartment as a place to stay for now. After Paul looks at some Photoshop pictures of himself in Charles' apartment. Alright, the next morning, Ben and Paul are looking out the window and spot.
Giggler laughs when he runs. Jesus, he really moves.
And now we meet the woman who was driving the car out of the parking garage the other night, Maria, and her husband Rodriguez, thanking Paul for his service. So now Paul gets his plan ready to lure in some creeps by calling his friend Wildy and renting a mailbox and buying a used car.
That's bait.
So Paul and Ben are enjoying some dinner with a Jewish couple. Cap robs and hears someone break into the car.
Hey, what's the problem? With the car, what's the problem?
Hey, Carl, what's it to you?
It's my car. How you gonna die?
We heard shots. What happened?
I sent them a message.
Or the next day, Rodriguez and Maria are on their way home and see another creep is bothering them.
Yeah, wrong, man!
And Paul comes out to save the day and meets with some other locals.
I'll take care of it.
Paul is now doing his push-ups and gets a phone call from Fraker telling him that he's being watched.
I'm watching you.
Paul notices that the creeps keep entering the apartment window, builds a trap, and walks past his painting where the horseman looks like John Wayne from Rio Grande from 1950. Paul goes for a nightly walk and sees that Stryker is there and wants to take all the credit for Paul's potential killings that he's going to do, but he refuses.
Like I said, I can't help you.
Now another creep is bothering an older lady. Now we see the lawyer again, Catherine Davis, who is suddenly interested by Paul and asks him out. Women today should take more notes on this kind of behavior, if you know what I mean.
Then she asked me out.
Meanwhile, the cap robs are being bothered again by the same creep. Paul builds him a trap too, and it works.
What are those? Teeth.
So the giggler was the one who experienced the trap at the cap robs, yet he steals another purse. Paul and Rodriguez chase him down.
It's Wildy's friend of yours. Can you catch this guy?
Well, who's Wildy? You'll see.
So now that Wildy is here, which obviously was a gun the entire time, is going to be the solution to all of the problems between the creeps and the locals. Now, if you have seen Sudden Impact from 1983, the Clint Eastwood movie,
Country.
Paul pretty much describes the gun in a similar way like Harry Callahan does.
By Wildy Mag looks a real mess.
Maybe it's just me. Anyway, Maria is again out in public and gets raped by Fraker and his duo, and is concerned knowing that she is now dead.
Mrs. Rodriguez has expired.
Gotta give the doctor Actor of the Year award.
Jesus. Clots came free and...
So Paul is now getting ready to load up Wildy and goes down 4.
Go down the street and get myself some ice cream. This is America, isn't it?
And gets an ice cream for young Philip Michael Thomas over here as well. As Paul carries the expensive Nikon camera, and we see that the giggler is very interested in it. And there goes a giggler. And I always question this. Why doesn't Paul pick up the camera and walk away with it? Then again, that's now police evidence. Paul Stryker and his crew are now investigating this.
The guy was a good shot. Better than anyone in our department.
Now Paul is on his date with Catherine Davis, the lawyer. They have some chicken that she cooked and they kiss. So Fraker is now back at night and wants to play cops and robbers with Paul. The other creeps set out into the night and we see some fun stuff. Yeah, don't forget about Wildy, Paul. Stryker is now back to tell Paul that people now know that he's the one that killed the giggler. Meanwhile, Fraker kills the wife of the convenience store owner, Emile. Bennett is now extremely pissed off that all this has happened, and now he's ready to take out the big guns.
What?
Ah, yes, the infamous machine gun. Similar to the minigun in video games like Grand Theft Auto. He played games like those. And now makes his way back to Catherine's place one last time till she leaves, so they have sex. Now the two head out for some late night dinner. Fraker follows them around, but Paul needs to check out his mailbox before they do so. So Fraker and his creep sabotage the car and push it down the hill and kill Catherine. Yet another woman has left Paul Kersey's life. First his wife, then Jerry Nichols, and now Catherine Davis. So Bennett is back knocking on Paul's door after finding out his taximeter business has been blown up by the creeps. So he decides to take the matter into his own hands. So Paul is now in custody due to the car explosion and is at the hospital with Stryker to check on Bennett. Anyway, Bennett tells Paul that there's another machine gun so he can use to kill the creeps.
He had to go someplace.
So Paul now gets ready for the biggest shoot-up ever, and Rodriguez is back to help.
Listen, I need some more guys. As many as you can spare me.
Mayhem has now begun as Paul Kersey is now there to take care of it. It's funny that there's no blood coming out.
It's Mr. Kersey. He just shot some of the creeps.
Fraker's backup is now here and now cause some more explosions. And now we get to see the best part, or get to hear the best part, Wildy. You just gotta love the sound of that gun. It sounds similar to Dirty Harry's. But anyway, Fraker and the cops are shooting back at each other, and here are some more shots of Wildy while Bennett is enjoying all of this. So the local community is starting to fight back too, and Paul stops to check Wildy. And Rodriguez saves Paul just on time. Anyway, this other creep is back to kill Paul, but Stryker is there just on time. So Paul runs after the rest of the creeps. And now he is out of ammo and runs back to the apartment some more. Fraker spots him running back, and Stryker runs after Fraker. So Fraker slips in from the window and gets shot by Stryker, while Paul shoots him countless times, but he has a bulletproof vest on as well. So Paul aims for the rocket launcher and blows Fraker up.
You can't have both of us at me.
And now that the remaining creeps have no leader, they just move on like nothing happened. So there's peace between the creeps and the locals. The cops show up and Stryker tells Paul to run away and to never come back.
Get out of here.
And that's it. There you have it, Death Wish 3. Now, I mentioned earlier that Death Wish 3 is the pinnacle of all Death Wish movies, and I say that because both the soundtrack and the violence are just so addicting for it to watch. Theme song, the background music all around, just so harmonious. Well, of course, it's going to sound good when you have founder Led Zeppelin Jimmy Page to compose the entire soundtrack for the movie. Will D will always be my favorite gun, especially when it's used for firing. Also, Bronson was only 64 years old when he did this movie, whereas in the original Death Wish was only 51. There are some other instances where it is questioning just straight up goofy, such as the poster pasted on the wall behind Stryker of a wanted horse. Another one is when Paul is shooting at the creeps here. You can hear Wildy firing, but no bullets are actually coming out. Or why didn't Fraker shave off his nose hairs? Like I said, this is the final time Bronson and Winter will be making a movie together, and from now on, and for the remainder of the 1980s, Bronson's movies will be directed and have been directed by J. Lee Thompson. Take care, see you soon.